Snow White was supposed to be her career's biggest movie, but was so brutally criticized, it instead became the one that destroyed her life.
Pretty much I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am. That's hard. Simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Or perhaps it was all part of the plan, because decades ago, Walt Disney himself said Snow White should never be remade, but they went ahead anyway, and by the time the trailer dropped, people hated it already. If I saw this movie on a plane, I would still walk out. Was it that hard to find someone who actually looks like Snow White? This comment made a good point. I just find it funny that her name is Snow White and she's not white. It just defeats the purpose. Petitions to cancel the remake started immediately, quickly snowballing into over 2.2 million dislikes, leading people to wonder why Disney wasn't canceling the movie or making some changes. Well, they did make changes. For starters, they swapped out real dwarf actors for CGI, which looked hideous. Instead of the beloved original characters, we got creepy, soulless abominations that looked like they crawled out of a failed video game. And strangely, in a live-action remake, even the trees were CGI, which was an atrocious waste of money as well. To make matters worse, they removed these iconic tracks from the original, one of which being Someday My Prince Will Come, because apparently Snow White dreaming of love makes her too dependent, which only makes sense considering there's no prince either, just a bandit named Jonathan, because the writers intentionally didn't want a prince saving Snow White.
By making him a thief and a lowlife, rather than an authoritative figure of any kind. It's as if the idea of a balanced relationship is offensive to them.
As mentioned, it felt more like a political statement than a kid's movie, and in case it isn't obvious, it was a garbage cash grab. The ending scenes felt like a Diddy party, and no surprise, people absolutely hated it. But there was one thing they hated even more: Snow White herself. Why? Well, arrogance, that's why. Back in 2020, Rachel Zegler called Jeremy Renner a racist, sexist, transphobic garbage monster based on irrelevant allegations that were proven to be false. And when a user told her to learn the facts before running her mouth, she arrogantly replied, "Better catch my mouth, cause she running." She never should have been cast, but this will be her last movie, judging by her comments.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
After calling the prince a stalker, she said this:
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Now, in the beginning, her statements weren't that outrageous, although there was one massive issue. She couldn't keep her mouth shut.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, never revisited Snow White again.
Zegler gives I Deserve This role more than anyone, and the fact that she has zero good to say about the original is disgusting narcissist, which wasn't wrong. For example, she seemed oddly excited saying her co-star's scenes could get cut.
I have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Which is funny considering she acts like she's making the movie herself. But ironically, she became the main reason people didn't want to watch it, and she eventually explained why. After Donald Trump won the election, Rachel posted this story basically calling him full of hate. But at the end, she said, "May Trump supporters, voters, and Trump himself never know peace," being completely opposite to the message she always preached. Clearly, she was a hypocrite as well, but Disney made her apologize and hired a social media guru to review every post until the movie's release. Yet the guru clearly did a terrible job, because when the trailer was released, Rachel thanked the viewers for the views, but also added, "Always remember Free Palestine." Now, this wasn't a huge deal, but her co-star was Israeli and supported Israel. Therefore, the tension between them was at its peak during the promotion. The real issue, however, was that Rachel's tweet led to Gal receiving death threats. So many, in fact, that she had to be given personal security. Rachel destroyed any hopes the movie had left. And now, the internet was about to destroy her, because before the movie could flop, her face already had. Edna Mode, Willy Wonka, The Little Lad, Violet, Lisa Rinna, Coconut Head, Beoshala, and the most accurate of all, Lloyd Farquaad. On Reddit, people stated her eyes got beef, haven't made eye contact in years. Those eyes are drifting apart like continents. Soon they'll need a passport to meet. The hashtag #NotMySnowWhite went massive viral on Twitter, with posts like, "Why does Latina Snow White look like the long haul Roderick?" Hashtag #NotMySnowWhite. Snow White versus evil queen who is jealous of her looks. With literally thousands of people just roasting her. They clipped her face from the movie and turned it into art like this, while explaining CGI dwarves were used instead of real actors due to Rachel being 5'2", making her not much taller than a little person. Users were thrilled that Lord Farquaad was finally back, and for the first time, people were rooting for the apple to win. Petitions to remove Rachel from the movie started popping up, with supporters calling her a nasty person, whilst editing pictures to turn the evil queen into Snow White. Fans disliked her so much because she has an ego the size of an elephant but looks like Lord Farquaad's mom with the attitude of a whiny brat. If you think she was the wrong choice for Snow White, like this. Almost 10,000 people agreed. Things had gotten so bad, she was being stalked and receiving death threats. As Zegler shared, the backlash led to people standing outside her apartment screaming profanities. But did she really deserve all this? And what did it do to her?
I think a lot of people are very mean, so when I do public appearances, I get very anxious. I had an anxiety attack on the plane ride here.
She first explained how intense the backlash was.
Pretty much I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am.
Almost quitting social media because it sent her into depression.
So I'm very hesitant to share a lot of myself with the world these days. I'm trying to be less active and check less and scroll less and read less, mostly because when I do look at things or read things on social media, it makes me upset. It makes me like a worse person, I think. It makes me, harbor a lot of feelings of guilt, doubt, anxiety, depression.
It got so bad, she even considered getting plastic surgery.
And also because I know how mean people get when pictures of me surface on the internet. It's gotten to a point where I actually had the thought in my brain of what surgery and how much surgery do I have to get for people to finally stop calling me ugly on the internet.
And eventually, she started posting less and less.
I don't really like giving people an opportunity to use my content as a way to bring me down about things that I say and things that I do or the way that I look.
The hate reached a whole new level. All she wanted was for it to stop.
I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats. When I tell you that it's hard, I just mean to be inside my brain. That's hard. And I'm there 24/7. I can't get out of it.
Which pushed Zegler to her breaking point. People have no sympathy for her. It's getting sick now. I don't know how much more I can take. It's haunting me. I cry every day. I just want it all to stop, she said. But sadly, not only was it not going to stop, it was about to get 100 times worse. Because when the movie was finally released, with a production budget of $270 million and $410 million in total after marketing costs, expectations were high. Although that didn't happen. It made just $43 million domestically and $44 million internationally in the first opening weekend, which dropped by 66% the following weekend, pulling in only $14.3 million. It needed $500 million just to break even, but made only $182 million. The movie reached just 1.6 stars on IMDb, making it the lowest rated film ever, and scored only 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. Meanwhile, dozens of TikToks showed how empty the theaters were. On Reddit, when asked about how the movie did, employees responded, "I didn't even know it was out in theaters." Very bad. Between the 4 showings we had yesterday, we did 8 people for it. So, who was to blame for all this? Well, of course, Rachel Zegler, right? Because she directed the film, wrote the script, styled her hair, and told the studio to spend $500 million on a remake no one asked for, right? No, Rachel had no fault in the film's failure. However, the saddest part is that Disney themselves started using her as a scapegoat. Suddenly, it wasn't Disney's movie anymore. It was Rachel Zegler's.
Rachel Zegler's Snow White is officially the worst movie of all time on IMDb, so this is her fault. Really, Snow White is bad because this is Zegler's movie and not Disney's movie. It's her movie apparently. Like bro, posts like these, the review bombing on IMDb, and everything else in between the belly buttons have all been putting blame on Zegler for how Snow White is performing.
Disney blatantly blamed Rachel for the failure, yet the real reason was this.
But the reason why Snow White is flopping at the box office is not because of Zegler, it's because of Disney. And what's stupid is that they aren't taking any accountability. Like, I read this article where Disney was playing heavy damage control because insiders at Disney are using Zegler as a scapegoat. For example, yes, I agree, her saying that the original Snow White is weird probably wasn't the best PR move,
which unsurprisingly led to even more trolling. She destroyed it, not Disney. It's Hollywood, baby. Zegler's acting was downright embarrassing, easily one of the worst performances I've seen. Disney got scammed, but nothing concluded again that the movie was already terrible to begin with.
However, this was all when Disney knew very well they just made a bad movie. And also the film had issues long before its release, such as the ballooning budget. There was an unclear marketing strat, and apparently this was all one person's fault. Because the reality is that the trailers, the marketing, the songs, and pretty much just the entire idea of a live-action remake made people not want to watch the movie.
To make matters worse, the film's producer's son stated, "Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous Disney IP with hundreds of millions on the line, had to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into promoting the movie. She hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires, risking the work of thousands. Narcissism is not something to be coddled. I hate her comments and politics. It was awful, but completely blaming her is insane." Therefore, Joe Rogan said this.
But imagine you spend $250 million and you get some young girl and you don't kind of talk to her about like, hey, you know, don't get political. You're young. And I know you have opinions about things, but should be just about the movie.
Eventually coming to this conclusion.
So now they've put it all on her. Now they've failed. Here's what happened. She made the cardinal error of saying free Palestine on Twitter. So she could say all that men are bad and it's this and that, but once you do that, now they've put the entire weight of the failure upon her, when really, it's like making Jimmy Fallon apologize for doing a Chris Rock impression.
As a result, for the first time, Rachel started receiving some positive comments. I really don't like Rachel, but sending death threats and insults, that's just unnecessary. You know, Rachel Zegler is a human. She's not perfect. She does things I think she shouldn't, and sometimes she says things she shouldn't. But nothing will ever convince me she's a bad person. No amount of hate will ever be justified against her. Now, it would be an understatement to say Rachel's mental health didn't take a hit. But after everything that's happened, it'll be interesting to see where her career goes from here.